Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. Today we're bringing you the show in the field from Lindenwood University, about 15 minutes west of St. Louis, right across the Missouri River in St. Charles County. Well, today we're going to catch up with one of the most prominent alumni from Lindenwood, one of the greatest basketball players that ever played here for the Lions, Earl Austin Jr. So we're going to catch up with him and talk about his remarkable career with the St. Louis American and broadcasting for St. Louis University and here at Lindenwood. So stay with us for Inside Sports coming up next on STL TV. And welcome to the show. Joining me today at Inside Sports is Earl Austin Jr. Earl's been with the St. Louis American for many, many years and as a top broadcaster of high school and collegiate athletics here in the St. Louis area. And Earl, thanks a lot for joining us here today. It's a special day out here at Lindenwood College, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's homecoming, and it's always a great celebration. There's athletes, student athletes all over the place, and I'm glad you can make it out. Obviously, it's a place always near and dear to my heart, and always glad to make you out and help celebrate our homecoming with us.
There's a lot of people coming through the hallways here. There's a buzz in the air as it is the 2025 homecoming for the Lindenwood Lions. And Earl, Lindenwood does hold a special place in your heart. I'm looking over here and I see something very special on the wall. And you were quite an athlete here at Lindenwood back in the day. Can you tell us a little bit about your career after McClure North?
Well, thank you. I played here at it wasn't in this building. This is the Highland Center and that great basketball arena, but I played at Lindenwood. There was Lindenwood College, like you said, in 1983 to 1986, and I played for a couple of coaches, Greenling Tobias, Bob Benben, and Larry Logan, all great guys, and was fortunate enough to have a pretty good career. Finished my career as a league for this leading scorer and rebounder at the time, and just a lot of fun. And I had the honor with Coach Brad Soderberg was here about 10, 12 years ago. He called me one day and said, "Earl, I want to let you know that we're going to retire your number here." I was like, "Oh, wow." That was very honored for that to happen. And they put that, every time I walk in here, I see that jersey sitting up there. It just kind of, gives you a little goosebumps. So
It makes you feel pretty good, doesn't it?
it does. But no, what they've done here, it's been amazing over the last decades, to go from D2 now to Division I, and just doing some great things with this program.
Now, you come from a basketball family. I know you had success at McClure North. What brought you into Lindenwood?
I was recruited at the time. There was a couple other places, small colleges, but my coach at the time, high school coach Pete Waldo at McClure North, he just wrote letters out there, recommendation letters, and one of them came back from Grayson Tobias, who was then the coach at here at Lindenwood, and I went out and for a tryout, played some ball with some guys out the St. Charles YMCA, not too far from the school, and they called me back and wanted me to come. And I said, "Oh, that's fine," and that kind of started my career, and had a great 4 years here as a player and a student.
It seems like basketball may be in your genes. Did you have a relative that had some great success in the NBA?
Yeah, Wes Unseld is my uncle. Was my uncle, passed away about 2020. Of course, he was a great player at the University of Louisville. He's a Hall of Famer. Played with the Washington Wizard Bullets then, now the Wizards, and led them to a championship in 1978. So yeah, he's kind of our whole family. Though all my uncles played some kind of. My uncle George played at Kansas, but Uncle Wes is probably the most famous of them with his NBA career.
So you're staying quite busy. You could discuss a little bit about your career at the St. Louis American. I know it's going on 3 decades
30
now.
years, yes.
And, who are some of the great athletes that you got to see maybe early on in your career that ended up blossoming in the collegiate or maybe the pro level that came from St. Louis that you may have seen?
Oh, wow. So many. Good Lord.
You got a few minutes.
Turn on the TV and you'll see somebody that I've covered over the years. I remember in the mid-90s when I first joined the American. Of course, it was just on the girls' side. You had Neil Ivey out of Corey Azu. Was a great player, led him to a state championship. And went on to, led Notre Dame to a national championship. Now she's the head coach at Notre Dame. At that time, Cardinal Ritter was a great basketball program. You had Heidi White, played in the NBA for many years. And then you had Lauren Woods or Chris Carrawell, who were great players at the collegiate level. Yeah, back in the 90s. God, it's just Larry Hughes in the mid 1997. Of course, went to St. Louis U and blew it up for a year and had a long career. And then, of course, over in East St. Louis, you just had so many great athletes on the football side. And then you get to more closer and then to the 21st century, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, then, just the names just roll off the tongue. So many great football players that you see on TV right now. Kyron Williams of the Rams, Jamison Williams from Cardinal Ritter of the Detroit Lions, Kyron with the Vianney. So Jeremy Macklin from Kirkwood played in the NFL. Now he's back coaching at Kirkwood. So just so many wonderful. Oh, Nafisa Collier, it was Alma Mater there, Carter. Now she's one of the top players in the W. Did great things at UConn and everything. So that's one thing. St. Louis puts out great talent in the manner of the sport, and to see them go on and do great things at the collegiate and the professional level is something, especially when you see them at 14, 15, 16 years old, kind of honing their craft early.
I remember broadcasting JFL games with Don Johnson and Demetrius Johnson over the years, and I remember Ezekiel Elliott when he played in the JFL. He scored like 4 touchdowns one day, and it was like 12, 9, 11, 12. And I remember saying, Ezekiel saw the wheel.
Yes.
And then for him to go on, and he's almost probably finished with his career right now, it just shows, like, I guess, how long that we've been covering sports in St. Louis.
He was an incredible player at John Burroughs, Ohio State, led him to a national championship, and of course had a great success with the Cowboys, especially early, leading the league in rushing touchdowns, and was just kind of the linchpin of Dallas's success early in his career. And just he was a phenomenal player. And he had a teammate, Foye Oluokun, who plays with the Falcons, I believe, right now. They're high school teammates, basketball and football. They were real good basketball players as well. And Zeke was a great track and field runner as well. So, to see those guys still doing it.
Now, you mentioned Kyron Williams a few minutes ago. He just got his jersey retired by Vianney. So in the middle of the NFL season, how cool is that for Kyron to be able to come back home to St. Louis to get his jersey put up in the rafters?
Absolutely. Led him to two state championships, and he was just a electrifying player to watch. He was as I enjoyed watching him play football as anyone, because he just had moves, and it was just fun to watch on that football field. I really loved watching him, and to see him translated to Notre Dame and now into the NFL with the Rams on a playoff team. The phenomenal young man.
Talking about football, it seems that high school football has been trending down in the last few years. I'm going to make my case here. The soccer team, St. Louis City SC, they're here now, and a lot of people are playing soccer. There are several high-end football programs and high school programs have closed. They've stopped playing football. I'm not sure why kids aren't coming out as much for football. Some schools are combining resources with some sports. Say one school may not have enough kids, so they can go, say, like Melville and Oakville. They combine a water polo team program just so the kids get to have the opportunity to play. What do you think, with covering sports all these years, why do you think the enrollment's down in football?
I think it's something, not only it's in St. Louis, I think it's almost the safety of it. I think with all those studies of CTE and concussions and everything, there are a lot of parents that are probably hesitant to put their sons in football. And even the former players have talked about it as well. I mean, it's still a lot of people participating. It's still, you got to have a lot of great players. It's more concentrated in a smaller number of schools. But like you said, you don't have the full scale, just participation everywhere. I think that has something to do with it. It's funny because I wanted to play football when I was in 7th to 8th grade. My mother wouldn't let me. he wouldn't let me. So I said, okay, I just left it alone. And I concentrated on basketball. My father was a baseball guy. So I think that's probably something that has to do with it as well, because it is a collision sport there.
Sure.
It really is.
I talked to Charlie Clemens, former linebacker of the Rams, one time, and he said on the special teams, it was like being in a train wreck.
Yeah.
Every time they had a kickoff, everybody would be running at full speed. It was exactly like a train wreck.
Yeah. Like my brother-in-law coached and played football, loves football and everything. Had nephews that played football, and you got to be different mentally.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to be great at what you do in a sport, but football is a sport you got to have. It's a special mentality that to really have to take on that kind of physical. It's violence, that kind of violence, and everything. So I think, I think, but I think also not that they're trying to. The rule try to take a lot of that out of the game and everything. A lot of the old school guys don't like it, so they're trying to make it a little bit more safer. And, the penalties and protecting to the players and everything. Obviously, you see the targeting that called protecting the quarterback. But yeah, I think it's a little different than back in the day. Like say in high schools, practice back in the day, coach, they'll tell you, he's practiced 2-3 times a day. It's 100 degrees, no water, the old stories, everything. Now, none of that.
One of the things that confuses me when I watch college and some high schools is that like the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs, they don't wear knee pads. And there's all this discussion about helmets and things. I talked to Cliff Ice, a good friend of mine who was the head coach of Webster Groves football, and they had great success. And all of a sudden, they started losing games and they're having losing records. They weren't very competitive. I said, what's going on? He says, we can't get kids to come out anymore. Their parents won't let them. And we talked about the issues with safety, but they don't wear knee pads.
Right.
That
was interesting. Yeah, I'm not obviously not a football expert, but that's something I've seen. Really, this year it's come to my attention. Yeah. I mean, I hope they got thigh pads and everything, but it's almost like they got shorts on and they got their socks and their football jerseys. But yeah, I thought that was interesting to see that.
I guess you get an extra burst of speed.
I guess.
Right there, they have to get a helmet.
Oh Lord, yeah, I know. But one thing, it is amazing though how much bigger and more athletic these young men are. These are athletes that are 6'6", 320, running people down 30 yards down the field. But like I saw a game of USC and Purdue when the guy 6'6", 360 pounds got intercepted the ball and ran it 60, 70 yards. Usually you're waiting for somebody to catch him, but he outran guys. In the Philadelphia Eagles, the one guy blocked the winning field goal against the Rams and ran it about 80 yards. He's about 320 and just like he knew what he was doing. I mean, he ran and like somebody gonna catch him. You think something to hit the bed, is gonna be on his back. The refrigerator's gonna get on his back, but no, these guys are running away from people, and that's scary right there. When you see if your son, you got son's a quarterback, wow, and you see guys that big and that athletic and that can run, that's really. The game is different when we see guys like that.
We're Earl Austin Jr. We're going to take a break. We'll continue our conversation on the flip side.
No, don't think he ever really knew me. I have run quite a distance, so in some ways I'm truly different. In some way I kept myself.
I've always been told I gotta be strong. Thick skin, tough as nails. But to be everything for everybody, it wears on you. Black don't crack, they say. But it can. We all can. Reach out to a friend if you see them going through it. No matter who you are, being vulnerable is what makes us whole. Learn how to help at seizetheawkward.org.
Don't ever call me a side. You know what I want, girl, I'm trying to make you mine. Hey, yo, excuse me, please don't confuse me. Quick within my cup, I keep it.
And welcome back to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. Earl Austin Jr. is with us today, the outstanding writer, editor for the St. Louis American, local broadcaster, and member of many Hall of Fames, including the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Earl, congratulations on your continued success. When we started Inside Sports 25 years ago, this year, and you were our guest on, I think, our second or third show. I believe we had it over at St. Louis U High And at that point, they didn't have a baseball field to call home.
Right.
Taylor Twellman, the soccer guru, was a baseball player. I think he got drafted by Baltimore. But as the years go on, you've been in the St. Louis Hall of Fame. With that success, who are some people that you've covered over the years or perhaps you've worked with that you think should have a shot at getting into the St. Louis Sports Hall?
Oh, God, there's so many of them. One that comes to mind, I'm not sure if he's in it, but my partner, Bob Ramsey on St. Louis U, Biblical Range Rammer. He's entering his 40th year of St. Louis U basketball. And we've been together 35 years at the mic together. And not only basketball, but Rammer was a great baseball announcer. He did some Cardinal games during some of their transition years. He did ambush soccer during the championship years. I mean, he does Lindenwood football and basketball here for ESPN Plus. He's such a versatile, a brilliant announcer, a great guy, and a great friend. So he's definitely a Hall of Famer in my book.
Fantastic. So Earl Austin's vote is for Bob Ramsey.
Absolutely.
You know, now you went to Lindenwood, as we spoke of in the last segment, and you've kept your ties here. You know, you go straight from your radio show out to here, and then you've kept the relationships going, but it's kind of part of your job. You've got your radio show, and then you come straight out here to Lindenwood. You're rapping with the coaches, the men's coach, the women's coach. So when you're in the trenches like this, speaking directly to the coaches, it should give you, a great idea of what's going on with the programs and make you that much more valuable as a broadcaster and an editor.
Absolutely. And it's a bonus that it's my alma mater, and to see them take that big leap to go to Division I and to stay tied to the programs, even when they were NAIA or Division II, I always kept up with what was going on, because not only I went here, my sister followed me here. Courtney, she played basketball. Courtney Thompson, not Courtney Austin. And she was a Hall of Fame player here at Lindenwood. She played in 86 through 90. And then my brother Richard played 3 years of basketball and baseball here at Lindenwood. So it's kind of a family school. And now I have a nephew, my youngest brother Richard, his son Richard Austin Jr. Attend Lindenwood right now. But he's not in sports. He's in the theater, and he's really I think he's a lead in the theater, big play coming up and everything. So he's the second generation of, we have kind of a generational thing going here at Lindenwood as well. So a lot of times I come to games now. I also go to the Scheidecker Center to go watch him in the plays and everything. So I've learned a lot over the years.
Lindenwood's about, 15, 20 minutes from St. Louis, if that. Now we've got Southeast Missouri State University is an hour and a half from here. They've both made it up to Division I.
Yes.
SEMO before. And now Lindenwood, it seems like really made a fast track. I mean, it was NIA, then Division II, and all of a sudden it's Division I. How excited should local prep athletes in basketball, football, women's, men's sports, how excited should they be to have Division I right down the street?
That's exactly right. And I can't speak on specific players as an alum, but to have Division I sports in St. Louis, like I said, you got St. Louis University is the one program, of course, which I've done for 35 years, but to have Division I football in St. Louis is I don't think we've ever had it, maybe. So that's fantastic. And, Jet Student's a great coach, doing some great things, building this program as well. But it is exciting because of the locale. St. Charles is a great community within itself. And like you said, it's just 20 minutes from the airport, and it's a growing, and you walk around the facilities and the campus, everything is just building constantly. And so it's fun, different, because we didn't have football when I was going to school here, but now I can go to Lindenwood for a tailgate and football Saturday for kids to have that type of experience. And now this year, they're eligible, they've received eligibility for NCAA tournaments. So whatever the programs now have a chance at the end of the year to win their conference tournament and possibly go to the NCAA tournament. So that's another big step at Lindenwood. So that's very exciting to see.
It really is, because if you're a student athlete in St. Louis and maybe you don't want to go too far away, you want your family to be able to see you play. You can come right here, and it's a perfect situation.
Perfect, absolutely.
Now, you're done broadcasting for many years, some outstanding teams at St. Louis University. Did you have a special year or two that you'd like to share with us from SLU?
Oh goodness, there's so many, but one year was fun, was Larry Hughes, 1998, because that's the time we've never had a McDonald's All-American. We've seen him go to Kansas, Kentucky, all these other places, but we finally had our own. And to see that happen and Larry just dominate for that year, and we went to the NCAA tournament, was fun. My favorite memory as far as was in 2000 when Lorenzo Romar and the Billikens won the Conference USA tournament in Memphis. It's called the Miracle in Memphis. We were the 9 seed and we defeated number 1 Cincinnati in the quarterfinals. Then we beat Tulane and we beat DePaul to get to the championship in Memphis and get the NCAA tournament bid. It was one of those 4 wins in 4 days. And probably the biggest memory of that was, me and Rammer, we were just kind of talking, we were just off the air. And when you win a championship, each team goes to cut the nets down, and then Lorenzo Romar in the middle of it, he calls me and Rammer goes, Earl, Rammer, come over here. I said, what? And then he lets us go up on the ladder and cut a piece of net down, and I thought, usually when you cut the nets down, that's sacred between the coaches and the players. But for Lorenzo to let us share in that special moment after winning a conference championship and going to a tournament, I took my piece of net home, and when we got to the I started crying because I know that the basketball, that means everything. And I kept that piece of net for many years. It probably got lost in the move, but I've had so many special memories, but that one sticks out. Obviously the Rick Majerus years offline. He got us to a top 10 ranking. We went to the tournament 3 times in a row. And then Travis Ford in 2019, we did the same thing. We won 4 games in 4 days in Brooklyn. And that's the last time we went to the NCAA tournament.
Spoon had a couple
At
of years.
Bowling Ball was just, and that's with Larry. And then, when we first, he got it going, obviously Rich, I was there for Rich's last year, but Spoon, it was to see 20,000 people. When we're a mid-major program, 20,000, 22,000 people. That's when the Sabbaths, whatever they call it, Enterprise, when it was the Kiel Center open, and to see 22,000 people to watch Scott Highmark, Erwin Claggett, and those guys, those early days. So I've had a lot of tremendous moments, and I'm looking forward to a lot of great ones with Josh Schertz now.
Let's talk a little bit about your radio show on 590 KLASS. You've teamed up with Ron Zetcher, another St. Louis Sports Hall of Famer, who's perhaps one of the greatest referees ever to come from the area, along with Ed Hightower.
Yes.
And, to go into a Hall of Fame as a referee and being a longtime coach and things, you guys really have got to have a lot to talk about on the air. And from what I've seen from Ron's posts and from what I see, you guys have really been on a roll with some top fantastic guests recently, like Bob Costas, Steve Stepanovich, and people like that on your radio show recently. And this is the new thing.
It is a lot of fun. It's a 2-hour show. We call the Earl Austin Experience on KLIS 590. And the first hour I host, I have local, mainly high schools and college, young people, bring them in the studio, talk with them and everything. And it highlights the young people, what they're doing. Ron comes in and we call it the easy second hour. And then it comes back to Memory Lane history. And as you said, Steve Stepanovich, Johnny Rowland was, Norm Stewart, and Bob Costas. And we get a chance, we had Rich Neiman on before I came in the studio. And it's Dave Phillips, it was on our show Empire last week. So it's a great chance to talk about the history of St. Louis. And there's so many great athletes and coaches and referees, umpires. So that's what Ron did. And we get a chance to delve back. And I learn a lot. I know a lot about it, but I learn even more about it. And it's so, I hope a lot of young people listen to it to see what happened before they came along, some of these great people. And I think it is a lot of fun to blend the younger generation with the greats of the past, and it's a great 60 minutes. And Ron brings them all in. He's part of the 1, 2, 3 club. He's got great relationships with all these gentlemen because he's one of them himself. He's a great, as you said, a Hall of Famer. And come on in. He just calls them up. Come on in. Come on. Sure. We sit and talk for an hour. And it's funny. We had Greg Vitello on from DeSmet High School, great soccer. And then 2 weeks later, his son's now the coach, the manager of the Giants, Tony. So I love it. It's fabulous. I love history and sports history myself.
So you actually went to college and got your degree and you used it, and you've made the best out of it. So many athletes, especially in basketball, they're one and done. If you go to Kentucky or with some schools like this, and you're really a great starting player, you might only be in college for 1 year. What do you think about that, being able to jump just like that to the pros? You don't get your education. You better have somebody to manage your money. And then what do you think of the NIL money that's going on with college football? Because it seems like some of these college players make more money now in college than if they get drafted into the pros.
Well, I love it. I mean, I've always thought that college athletes, especially basketball and in football, they generate millions and billions. That NCAA tournament is $1 billion business because of the television revenue. These college athletes in football, like SEC, 90,000 a year, they generate so much. And so for many years, I've talked about they should share in some of that because they're the ones that are, that's who people come to see and everything. Now, like I said, the pendulum has swung way the other way, and I don't know if they're going to try to bring it back, but I love to see these athletes get paid, get some money. It's not only just a revenue, big quote unquote revenue. You see, like on the women's side, the top gymnasts, and then like the softball player for Texas A&M, they paid $1 million. She was at Stanford, and she came over to Texas. So and I enjoy seeing the athletes get a chance to get paid for their hard work.
Is there any final thoughts, about your career you'd like to share with the American, or any way people can get in touch with you or listen to your broadcasts and things like that?
Well, sure. I love the St. Louis American. It's been my home for over 30 years, and we're moving into the digital age. We're in the newspaper. It's free, but stlouisamerican.com is really having a presence in the digital age as well. Obviously, St. Louis University, it's my 35th year doing basketball games with Rammer, and looking forward to a great season, and that I've always enjoyed. That's unbelievable, just being able to sit there with Rammer. And of course, back here at Lindenwood, my alma mater, where me and Rammer were able to broadcast basketball for ESPN Plus. So I've been blessed. Like I said, it's not like the job. It's what I would love to do. It's what I've been doing. Also, I run two websites, Prep Hoops and Prep Girls Hoops. So I'm watching high school basketball around the state of Missouri, traveling around the state. So these are things that I probably would be doing if it's what I do, but I don't feel like I'm going to a job. I feel like I'm doing what I love to do, and that's a blessing to me.
You can see the passion. Well, Earl, you've been a great friend of Inside Sports and STL TV over the last 25 years.
You guys have done an incredible job. Let me tell you, you guys are legends with what you've been able to do. Andre, Todd, I've watched you, followed you. You guys are unbelievable. I want to get that out of the way too. You guys have been a great service to St. Louis community. There's no doubt about it.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming on periodically over the years, starting from year number 1 in 2000.
Thank you.
Well, Earl, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on all your success and continued success to one of the most classiest, sports-minded individuals in St. Louis, Earl Austin Jr. Well, that's our show. I'd like to thank you for watching Inside Sports on STL TV. Experience St. Louis.